An independent editorial analysis of Japan's defense posture and security policy.
The silhouette of the Kawasaki EC-1 is unmistakable. It is characterized by the bulbous, disjointed radomes protruding from its nose and tail, features that have earned it a reputation as an aesthetic anomaly within the Japan Air Self-Defense Force. Yet, the imminent retirement of aircraft serial number 78-1021, the sole operational airframe of this type, signifies far more than the museum-bound departure of a Cold War relic. The withdrawal of this unique platform marks the closure of a specific doctrinal chapter in Japanese defense history, one defined by introspection and geographic confinement. Simultaneously, it opens a new era, an era focused on extended range, digital integration, and active electromagnetic spectrum dominance. The transition from the EC-1 to the RC-2 platform is not merely a hardware update. It represents a systemic realignment of how Tokyo perceives and intends to manage the invisible battlefield of electronic warfare. Operationally, the EC-1 was a product of its time, designed primarily for a training role rather than combat deployment. Its core function was electronic countermeasures training, essentially acting as an aggressor to jam Japanese ground-based radars, thereby teaching operators how to filter out interference. This mission profile was consistent with the strict interpretation of exclusively defense-oriented policy, where the focus was on hardening domestic shields rather than blinding external swords. However, the constraints of the C-1 transport airframe, upon which the EC-1 is based, have become operationally untenable in the current security environment. The legacy platform suffers from a severely limited fairing range and loiter time, a deficiency that was manageable when the primary threat vector was a potential invasion of Hokkaido. Today, with the strategic focus shifting southwest to the Ryukyu Arc and the vast maritime domains of the East China Sea, the inability of the EC-1 to maintain persistent station time at extended ranges renders it obsolete. The introduction of the RC-2, derived from the Kawasaki C-2 transport, addresses this geographical deficit through sheer kinetic performance. With a cruising range approximately 4 times that of its predecessor, and a significantly higher service ceiling, the RC-2 alters the geometry of intelligence collection. A higher service ceiling extends the radio horizon. This allows onboard sensors to intercept signals deep within continental Asia, while the aircraft remains within Japanese airspace. This capability transforms the mission from local training support to strategic electronic intelligence gathering. The platform is no longer just testing domestic air defenses. It is actively characterizing the electronic order of battle of potential adversaries. This shift suggests a move toward a more proactive posture, where understanding the adversary's electromagnetic signature is prioritized as a prerequisite for potential kinetic engagements. From an industrial and logistical perspective, the retirement of the EC-1 alleviates a significant strain on the maintenance infrastructure. Operating a unique single airframe fleet creates a disproportionate logistical burden, often referred to as the orphan fleet problem. As the standard C-1 transport fleet retires, the supply chain for the EC-1 has evaporated. This drives up the cost per flight hour and decreases availability rates. The standardization of the electronic warfare fleet on the C-2 chassis, which shares commonality with the heavy transport fleet, introduces economies of scale. It simplifies the maintenance, repair, and overhaul cycle. This rationalization is critical, especially as the Ministry of Defense seeks to optimize a budget that, while increasing, faces pressure from currency fluctuations and the rising unit costs of imported systems. Technologically, the transition highlights the migration from analog to digital processing in spectrum warfare. The bulbous fairings of the EC-1 housed systems that, while effective in the late 20th century, lack the processing speed and frequency agility required to counter modern, active electronically scanned array radars, or low probability of intercept signals. The RC-2 integration suggests a focus on wideband collection and automated signal classification. This capability is essential for feeding the joint automated cloud architecture that the self-defense forces are constructing. Where data collected by an RC-2 could theoretically be utilized to program the threat libraries of an F-35 or update the firing solution of a Type 12 surface-to-ship missile battery. The aircraft thus ceases to be a standalone trainer. It becomes a node in a networked kill chain. However, this transition introduces complex trade-offs regarding the role of offensive electronic attack. While the EC-1 was benign by design, the payload capacity and power generation of the RC-2 airframe allow for the potential carriage of high-powered, standoff jamming equipment. The Defense Buildup Program indicates a requirement for aircraft capable of neutralizing adversary radar and communications from a distance to protect strike packages. While the current configuration of the RC-2 is heavily biased toward reception and intelligence gathering, the airframe provides the necessary real estate for future active jamming upgrades. This evolution forces a silent debate within policy planning circles regarding the threshold between defensive jamming and offensive preemptive blinding, a distinction that is increasingly blurred by the physics of modern electronic warfare. Furthermore, the replacement program exposes the challenges of human capital within the specialized domain of electronic warfare. The skill set required to operate the analog systems of the EC-1 differs fundamentally from the data-centric analysis required for the RC-2. The Japan Air Self-Defense Force faces the necessity of retraining its cadre of electronic warfare officers to interpret complex digital waterfalls and automated threat files rather than manual scope adjustments. This personnel transition is often slower than the hardware acquisition, creating a potential lag between the commissioning of the new airframes and the maximization of their operational output. The complexity of modern electromagnetic spectrum operations requires a generation of operators who are also data analysts, a demographic that is in high demand and short supply across the Japanese private and public sectors. The geopolitical signaling inherent in this modernization is subtle but distinct. By deploying a platform capable of long-endurance patrols along the first island chain, Tokyo is demonstrating a commitment to persistent monitoring of the electromagnetic spectrum. This serves as a soft power deterrent, signaling to neighboring powers that changes in their electronic posture are being observed and cataloged. It denies adversaries the advantage of surprise in the electronic domain. The retirement of the EC-1 is therefore not merely a footnote in an equipment ledger, but a symptom of Japan's broader normalization of its military posture. It reflects a systemic acknowledgement that in modern high-intensity conflict, the control of the electromagnetic spectrum is as critical as air or maritime superiority, and that the tools required to secure it must be capable, persistent, and integrated, rather than symbolic and idiosyncratic.